Hi, I'm Jason Wheaton on behalf of Crop Care and also Ray White Keatley and Mount Gambier Castec. Just here to talk about snail management in pastures. Snails are certainly a major problem in South Australia, lower southeast, York Peninsula, Eyre Peninsula. Snail management has become very important in pasture management and crop management due to contamination of grain samples. So in terms of how we manage snails overall on properties, there's many ways. Snail baiting is part of the process, but there is other forms of control such as rolling, slashing, burning. And also these processes integrated into a farm management plan helps to manage snail numbers. The most important thing with snails, there's 4 types of snails that are really broken into 2 categories. So we've got the White's Italian snail and also the common vineyard snail. So they're what we would call as our round snails. And then also we've got our conical snails or pointed snails. So there is 4 types, but they're broken into 2 categories. In terms of control, in terms of baiting, Crop Care are involved in manufacture of 2 products in the Australian market. One is called Meta and one is called Slug Out. Meta is a grain-based metaldehyde product. We try and get I suppose the key to snail bait management is coverage and getting enough baits per square metre over a paddock or cropping area. With our Meta, we ensure that we've got a very good pellet which is held together by a high protein wheat. This is manufactured in southern New South Wales for the Australian market. So Meta, if we look at the sample, Meta comes in a 10mm pellet, 2.5mm diameter. So if we look at the cycle of a snail, which is important in its management, through the summer period, snails generally are inactive. They need moisture to activate and go onto our cropping and pasture country. So it's very important that when we do bait, we have a snail that's moving so that they can actually bump into the bait in the paddocks. So with that in mind, bait points become important. With the snail process over its life cycle, so during the summer period they're inactive, and then when the autumn rains hits in April to May, that's when we get a lot of snail activity. They move off the posts, off vineyards as well, off the vines onto the ground. So it's very important we get as many snail baits onto the ground at that particular time. Snails are hermaphrodites, so in terms of breeding, they actually produce 400 or so eggs each, so they have a high ability to reproduce. Therefore, controlling numbers early in the cropping and pasture season is important to reducing their damage. Okay, at Crop Care we also make a product called Slug Out, which is a 18 gram per kilogram of metaldehyde product used in high rainfall areas also to control slugs in crop and pasture areas. The granule, as you can see, is a very small granule. So what we're trying to achieve with this product is to get as many bait points per square metre as we can. The product itself, like I said, it can handle high rainfall areas. So an area such as Mount Gambier, this product would be expected to last 2 to 3 weeks on the ground. So we're getting good coverage onto the ground. So when snails are moving in that autumn period and spring period, when the moisture is there, we're able to get good coverage and good control of snails. So in summary, when we're looking at snail control, snail baiting is just an area that shouldn't be just focused on alone. Snail management can involve burning paddocks, rolling, cultivation, but in terms of the farming operation, if you're using a no-till operation where you're not disturbing the soil, then burning and cultivation might not be the best practice. But there is a number of options, and snail baiting certainly is an option for getting good control on snails. Like I said, we have 4 different types of snails broken into 2 categories, so snail identification is important, and obviously monitoring the paddocks and cropping areas over the growing period is important for management. In terms of late in the season, when we do have snails increasing in numbers, very important in cropping areas to reduce the numbers, to ensure that the grain sample that's delivered to silos is not contaminated with any snails, because there is penalties for that. And to avoid that, a lot of growers are using different techniques at harvest, using bumper bars on header fronts to try and knock snails off cropping before the harvest, the header goes through. Also, windrowing can be a means of managing snails. That means putting grain crop into windrows before harvest. So these are important aspects in managing snail populations. So hopefully with this information you can get a bit of an idea on what we're trying to achieve with snail baiting. It's all about trying to get snail baits per square metre and getting as much coverage onto the ground at certain points of the year when snails are most active. So on behalf of Ray White, Keatley, Mount Gambier and Castec, if you do require further information, please don't hesitate to call into Mount Gambier Castec. On behalf of Crop Care, thank you very much.